was the voice that followed me on stage the first time I tried stand-up comedy. The intro music of all songs was Eminem's "You Only Get One Shot." I could feel the hot, bright stage lights overlooking top of a microphone into a dark audience, feeling every eye focused on me. My stomach turning like a cement truck, my palms sweating, knees shaking, a taste in my mouth like I've been sucking on a lead pipe. I couldn't remember feeling more vulnerable. Have you ever entered a room feeling small? If you know this feeling I speak of, please say aye. If you would have been with me in 1988, you would have seen a 16-year-old with jerry curls and braces, whose dream it was to be like the coolest man on the planet at that time, Eddie Murphy. You ever have something that you're going to do one of these days, a self-actualized you that dreams about what it is that you could become, what you could actually do? See, for years, something as simple as channel surfing could bring my spirits down anytime I saw a comedian on TV doing what I feared. I would not go to my grave without conquering this fear. So years later, I signed up for a stand-up comedy course. And here's what I learned. It's hard. You know what they told me in Stand-Up Comedy 101 right after they handed me my credit card receipt? This won't get you laid. But as I've struggled with that, and when it got out of my comfort zone to give this a try, I could hear those limiting voices. You've probably heard them before when you step up to do something that you fear. Am I really good enough? Do I have what it takes? Am I too young, too old, too black, too Amish? But when we step outside of our comfort zones, we are stepping into the land of doubt, the land of fear. It's like weathering a storm. You see, most people, they run for cover when a storm comes. But one of my favorite animals, the eagle, when it runs into trouble, when it runs into a storm, it will actually spread its wings. And using the winds and using the turbulence, it will actually fly into the storm. Now, besides how to dodge lightning, if you could learn something from the eagle, please say aye. Now, you probably heard of a young fighter at that time, back in the 60s, Cassius Clay. Somebody that was told in one of his boxing matches that he didn't have a chance to win. The odds were against him. He was an underdog, underclassed, underweighted. And this was his response. "Sonny, listen, you ain't no champ. You a chump. I float like a butterfly, sting like a bee. Whoa, rumble, young man, rumble. Sonny Liston knows I'm great, and he will fall in 8. I'm going to give Sonny Liston boxing lessons, talking lessons, and falling down lessons." Muhammad Ali, he wasn't talking to you. He was talking to himself, seeing the greatness inside, despite the fact he was vulnerable. How was he vulnerable? Muhammad Ali said that he hated every minute of training. Why? Because it's not easy transforming your weakness into strength. If you could learn something from Muhammad Ali, please say aye. Aye. So there I was, vulnerable, attempting stand-up comedy for the first time. Fear, doubt, anxiety, 2 decades of being haunted by this dream, and now it all came down to the next 5 minutes. I fired out my first joke. Silence. I gave them my next joke. More silence. Thank God I was wearing a diaper. looking all the way to the back of the room. In between the shadows, I could see the shadow of my comedy coach standing there. And in the deafening silence, I could hear just his voice saying something that I remembered from class that has stuck with me ever since. It's true for the Eagle, it was true for Muhammad Ali, and it was true for me in this terrifying moment. Here's what he said. Anything worth succeeding at is worth being vulnerable. Anything worth succeeding at is worth being vulnerable. I went off script. I looked into the eyes of the audience and I asked them, am I in the right room? And that's when they laughed. So I fired another joke and then another, and they were finally laughing. 4 minutes and 37 seconds later, I walked off that stage 10 feet taller than when I came on. Even my mother jumped up and said, look, my son, he's still growing. And what I found out in that moment was that behind my fear was who I really am, what I was intended to become, which was somebody that just wanted to express themselves in front of other people. I didn't need to become a star comedian, but I needed to cross that off my list. I needed to know that I had the ability to face the fears of insecurities that I had had since the time that I was a kid. You've probably had those moments in class or in school or high school, those embarrassing moments when all eyes were on you. Well, that happened to me several times because I was a klutz. Many different moments in class, many different moments, as I had ADD. And had to go back to grade 2 from grade 3. Very embarrassing, humiliating moments for me that made me feel that when I got older, that what I had to say may not have any value. And so attempting stand-up comedy was about the riskiest thing that I could do to get my balls back. And so I encourage, the way that I was able to do that was, first of all, making the decision that it was worth it to be vulnerable. It was worth it to face my weakness. It was worth it to go through that pain, to find a why that was big enough. And then finally, after 20 years, I decided maybe I should ask for help. And that's when I went and I took the course, and I was able to get some mentorship. And from there, I took action. And something that had been plaguing and haunting me for 20 years, I was able to cure in 5 minutes. Because I was able to take, for me, what were the right steps. And so anything, I believe, that you believe that it's something that is going to allow you to grow or going to allow you to accomplish your goals, make a certain amount of money, maybe it's getting a promotion, asking a beautiful person out on a date, it's worth it to take that risk. And of course, take risks, professionally, not always, personally, but take them in such a way that you can allow that weakness to turn into a strength and realize your dreams and goals. And that's what I was able to learn from that entire experience. Now, a lot of people ask me, Steve, are you still doing stand-up? This experience that I'm telling you about happened a few years ago. And since then, I've gotten into motivational speaking. And it's something that I really enjoy doing, making audiences laugh, but also, hoping to deliver a message that can uplift the condition of people's lives. But I do still plan to go back to stand-up, still working on some new material as we speak, so I could be out there sometime in the next couple of months on the amateur circuit. But until then, my name is Steve Hopkinson. You've been a fantastic audience. Thank you for having me.